It is now time for question period. The member from Whitby Ashford.
My question is to the Premier. Yesterday's Auditor General's report revealed the incompetence of your Liberal government has reached new heights. $2 billion wasted on so-called smart meters. Project costs nearly double the original estimate, and hardworking Ontarians left to pay the bill. A debt ballooning to $325 billion will mean a burden of $23,000 for every child born in 2018. There's one word that keeps coming up over and over again in this report, Premier, and that's failure. A failure to manage money, a failure to manage projects, a failure to manage people, a failure to take care of our most vulnerable, and a complete failure of leadership. Premier, when will you stop failing Ontarians and get your fiscal house in order?
Thank you. Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as I said in the House yesterday, and as I said this morning, we welcome the scrutiny of the Auditor General, as governments before us have.
Stop the clock. The Minister of Aboriginal Affairs will come to order. Now, I anticipate, I shouldn't, but I anticipate that this will be emotional, and if it gets too emotional, I'm going to shut it down. And that includes anyone making any comments at all. Let's get through this properly. Premier, please finish.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said, we welcome the scrutiny of the Auditor General. We welcome the opportunity to improve services. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, Bill 8, which passed yesterday, actually increases accountability of the government, Mr. Speaker. And so we have worked with the Auditor General. We will continue to work with the Auditor General. Many of the recommendations that the Auditor General made, Mr. Speaker, many of the areas of concern are areas where we have already taken action, whether it's childcare, the review of the immunization system, Mr. Speaker, the adult corrections, adult community corrections, and Ontario Parole Board. Many of those are areas where we have already taken action, Mr. Speaker.
Answer.
On the other areas of concern, we will continue to work with the Auditor General.
Thank you. Supplementary.
Mr. Speaker, the disrespect for taxpayers' dollars from this government is nothing short of appalling. Premier, we thought we'd seen it all when we saw $1 billion lost in the gas plant scandal. Now we learn that you and your reappointed energy minister have doubled down by wasting $2 billion more dollars on smart meters that don't work. The $2 billion in costs have raised energy prices on families and seniors who now can't even afford to turn on a space heater. There's nothing smart about wasting $2 billion and getting no results. Is anyone in your government willing to stand up and be held accountable for this abject failure of management and leadership?
I have said, and I will continue to say, that there are many areas in the majority of the recommendations that the Auditor General has made are things that we agree with and we are completely aligned and will work with her, or we have already started to work to make those improvements. But, Mr. Speaker, there are a couple of areas.
The member from Dufferin and Caledon come to order. The member from Stormont, Dundas and South Glengarry come to order. Your names are on a list.
There are a couple of areas, Mr. Speaker, where there is a disagreement, and I will address the issue of smart meters. If the member opposite had the opportunity yesterday to hear the head of Toronto Hydro speak, she will recognize that there is concrete success that we can see on the ground. 3% of Toronto Hydro off-peak in off-peak hours has been shifted from off-peak, Mr. Speaker, to save the equivalent of the power to fuel 97 condominium buildings, Mr. Speaker. That's a serious reduction.
Thank you. Final supplementary.
Premier, you can't get away from this smart meter fiasco. Billions wasted on scandal, billions in foregone tax revenues from jobs you've driven out of this province, not to mention the $11 billion we spend servicing our debt. All of that could be redirected to schools, to hospitals, to those with disabilities, to paying down our debt. But instead, all that money goes to pay for your scandals and ineptitude. Premier, these scandals have to stop. Will you show Ontarians the respect they deserve and demand your energy minister resign?
Order. The member from Huron-Bruce, come to order. Premier.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And just to the issue of smart meters, let me just relay to the member opposite what some of the people who are experts in the field have said about the smart meters, Mr. Speaker. The Environmental Commissioner of Ontario
The member from Renfrew,
they are necessary, absolutely necessary for the proper functioning and future functioning of the distribution system for electricity. Smart grid technologies have the potential to improve reliability, reduce system costs, empower customers, and lower the environmental impact of the electricity that we use. Mr. Speaker, the reality is we have data, because of the smart meters that are in place, that we would not have otherwise. We are able to implement conservation mechanisms that we would not be able to implement without smart meters. Now, I know, Mr. Speaker, that the member opposite is not particularly interested in conservation, but the fact is that we are. That's why